And this is another video about education and my thoughts on education. As I rapidly approach death, I'm studying education a lot and thinking about it all the time, basically, and trying to teach my kids as much as possible in the best way possible. So, I was thinking today about the philosopher and computer scientist Ted Nelson. He lives by 4 maxims, one of which is most people are fools. And I think it's a very perceptive comment because it explains a lot about the world and about where we're at the moment and where we've been in the past and sadly where we're going. Most people are fools, so the majority of people that you meet and that you deal with in most situations are going to be fools. You may be fortunate, you may be in a, let's say, maybe in a work environment where there's some kind of barrier that's kept the fools out, or you're in an environment which is not attractive to fools. It's interesting to think, what does it really mean most people are fools? Well, one of the aspects of that is that they do foolish things. So most people, most of the time, most of what they do is foolish, silly, waste of time, or harmful to themselves, harmful to others. But there's another aspect of being a fool, and I think being a fool means you're easily fooled. So you're tricked easily or misled easily, or you perceive the world in a way which leads you to false beliefs, to believe stuff that's not true. And of course this influences your behaviour and makes you do more foolish things. So when we're educating children, we often, particularly as parents, we often put a lot of time and energy into trying to teach children not to do foolish things. So I might say, don't play with matches, and might explain or demonstrate why it's dangerous to play with matches, and we might teach a child how to cut vegetables in a way that's not going to cut their fingers. We might say to a child, be careful when they're climbing a tree. So we put a lot of time and effort into teaching children not to do foolish things, often with respect to safety, maybe in respect to relationships. So you might say to a child, don't lend all your toys to other children because they may come back broken or not come back at all, and this can cause a lot of conflict. We may try and tell children not to waste their time because we think it's foolish, although I think it can be very subjective what time wasting is. But maybe a lot more time and energy should be put into teaching children not to be fooled. And because of the state we're in, to have to teach this to adults as well. And we're fooled by lots of things. We may lack the knowledge that lets us make good judgments about things. We may be in an environment or even a society where we're told to ignore our knowledge when we make judgments about things. We're told, oh, you've got to be more open-minded. I saw a great quote about this. I can't remember who it was from, possibly Isaac Asimov, that we should approach things with an open mind, but not an empty mind. In the course of the last 6 months or so, since I found out I had terminal cancer, obviously come across a huge number of people who are quite empty-minded when it comes to human biology. I don't know if they forgot the biology that they wasn't really learned at school or whatever, but people believe the weirdest stuff about the human body, and that's not being open-minded, that's being empty-minded. So not really understanding the basics of evolution, for example, and how the human body has got to the stage it's at, or not understanding the basic systems of the body, how the organs function, what their jobs are. This leads us to believing all sorts of really weird stuff about the body. So how can we teach children not to be fooled? Well, two very powerful tools for not being fooled are mathematics and science. Mathematics is particularly important because we're often fooled by the mathematics of daily life. It's very difficult for humans to have like a natural feeling about combinatorics, for example. That's the ways that different things can be arranged. So we quickly and often get into situations where we're underestimating the number of combinations of things. So we see coincidences, for example, and we allow these coincidences to produce patterns in our model of the world, patterns in our knowledge about the world, which are not really there. And what's really happened is that we have seen different arrangements of things, and we've added them up, we've kind of conflated them. So a good example of this is the famous birthday paradox. There are 365 days in the year, usually, and so 365 different possible birthdays. And yet, if you have a group of about 30 people, there's more than a 50% chance that two of them share the same birthday. And people say, oh, we might describe this as being counterintuitive, that the number of people seems so small. Considering there's 365 possible birthdays, you only need 30 people to have a 50% chance of two sharing the same birthday. And this is a paradox about combinatorics because, of course, if you take the first person, they have a birthday, or there's 29 other people that all have chances of sharing the same birthday. So you've got sort of 29 chances out of 365, and then you've got all the sets of the different people, different ways of arranging the people. So this is the birthday paradox, and it's just one of the many examples of how we're fooled by the mathematics of everyday life. Sometimes we underestimate combinations of things. So if you look at 10 fingers, what are the different combinations of having fingers up and down? Well, an easy way to count them is powers of 2, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 56, 512, which means there's a 1024 different ways your fingers can just be up and down. Starting with like none, 1, 2, 3. Well, that's quite interesting. 1024 from 10 fingers when computing them. I say 10 bits. If you think of the fingers as switches. So if you had 10 switches, 1024 ways they can be off and on. I always forget whether that's combinations or permutations. I think combinations. One of them is exclusive and one of them is inclusive. I think 1024 combinations. So mathematics is a very important tool, and probably the branch of mathematics that, or no, I should say the branches of mathematics that are most important are statistics and probability. Combinatorics, we kind of, let's say, we put it in probability, because when outcomes are equal, then we're looking at combinations of them. Combinatorics. The vast majority of people do not have any way of judging statistical information. They lack the knowledge, and they lack the culture, I guess, that they lack the critical thinking. So this is something we have to teach children, or we have to, maybe a better way to say that, we have to let children discover it. We have to create an environment where children discover how statistics are valuable, how they can mislead us, how they can be used to mislead us. I see statistics all the time. Someone says, oh, this medicine has a 20% chance of extending your survival, because with a group of 100 people who all took this medicine, 20 of them, let's say, saw an increase in the survival. Well, when we see statistics like that, we need ways to judge it. Most people struggle to understand the concept of an average. What does it mean when we have a group of people and we talk about the average height? Well, we have different averages. We could talk about the most common height. We could talk about what was the height of the middle person if you arrange them in height order. We could add up all the heights and divide by the number of people, so sharing out the height. What do those mean? What's the value of it? What does it tell us about this group of people? If we compare it to this group of people to another group of people, which average should we use? In which situations are we losing too much information? We might want to know the spread, like what was the spread of data, like what was the highest, the tallest person, what was the shortest person, what's the difference between the heights? So we need good ways of teaching children about this and letting them understand the value of this. And I don't think society, government, organisations, schools, teachers are up to that at the moment. We need to change that. So I'm going to do a part 2 of this video because I'm coming up to the 15-minute mark. And yep, part 2 is coming.